think about some of these situations. Think about how many times you pop a guy and then get into another fight, and then player scavs come, and then you get into another fight, and you forgot to loot that. You go to the end, you're like, oh, that was that first guy. Imagine that first guy didn't die. What if you wake up and you have all your stuff, and you're like, shoot, and you just run out?
Imagine you wake up and everything's been taken except for your pistol, and there's like a scav going through your backpack.
Hey,
like,
dude,
wow, you know,
dude,
oh, shit.
Exactly. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast, the show dedicated to talking about all the poggers things in life, like music, content creation, and video games. I'm one of your co-hosts, JesseKazam, an Escape from Tarkov content creator.
And I'm Veritas, licensed chiropractor and professional used car salesman. Hello.
I need a chiropractor so bad. You ever been to a chiropractor?
No.
Some people are weird about it. They don't believe in them.
Well, there's two different kinds of chiropractors.
Sure. Yeah.
There are the ones that deal with like muscular skeletal things.
Yeah.
And then there are the other ones that deal with magic.
Yeah, with the salt
crystal
rock
energy.
lamps. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's bullshit.
Never been to one of those in my life. Been to countless. My whole family had back problems. My mom and dad used to have to go to the chiropractor. I used to wake up all the time and not be able to move my neck past here.
Yep.
I would walk around like this. So I've been to a lot of the real deal chiropractors, and it's so good. I love it. It's definitely not a replacement to medicine, the practice of medicine, but it's so great. I love chiropractors.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't fall into the pseudoscientific bullshit. No. Or I've seen some pretty gnarly doctors doing chiropractic to infants and shit, where it's this is not fucking safe. Yep. I would drop kick the dude for doing what he's doing to my 6-month-old baby. You know what I mean? Fuck off.
That's
but
funny.
That's the parents' fault. Yeah. Anyway, now we are now a science and skepticism medical podcast. Everybody.
Yeah, 100%. How's Tarkov been? I know you've been playing for a few hours. You just got off a fatty raid.
Yeah, not bad. I've had a few decent raids. It's been okay. Not bad. I will say that in the last couple of days, and I have to be, I can't. It's I can't say the things I want to say.
Yeah. Because
it undermines the things. But let's just say, I think fairly recently there were some steps in the right direction made in some realms of the cheating situation that you probably won't hear about. But anecdotally, what I know, and then based on what I've experienced, seems to be a good thing. That was the most cryptic bullshit I've ever said.
I get it though. I get it. That's good to know. That's cool. Let's hope. Let us hope. I mean, as we'll talk about in a little bit, Nikita was talking about a few different modules, he called them, in the BattlEye anti-cheat thing. So I don't know. It is a perpetual battle that is being fought, that sometimes the more we talk about it, the less it helps. So I get it. You know what I mean? I totally get it. I have not played Tarkov. I have not played Tarkov in a while. I played a little bit Wednesday morning with Deadly Slob, and then we switched over to some Hunt Showdown. An hour after we switched over to Hunt Showdown, my chat just started getting flooded with they Veritas got it done. They're fixing the health. They're fixing the health thing. They're doing the patch. And I was like, oh, sick. And then 10 minutes later, oh no, it's so bad. They broke everything. And so I was just hearing about it through chat while I was playing Hunt. And then I got off. I had a bunch of stuff to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we were out of town. Got back late last night, and so I haven't played Tarkov in a minute. And a whole lot happened over the weekend as far as news and podcasts. But I wanted to talk about what I have 7 or 8 clips that were sent to me from your stream. People were clipping stuff from your stream and sending them over, walking around the minefield with a blacked out head and just boom, boom. Boom.
I hit 35 mines and didn't die.
So so what happened? Because there's a lot of confusion. Like, this is one of those things that's like simple, but the more, even if you know what's going on, the more you talk about it, sometimes you trip yourself up where you're like, yeah, the damage to a blacked out, like it just starts to kind of, and so because of that, a lot of people were like, this was what's supposed to happen when it wasn't, and vice versa. And then what happened wasn't supposed to happen. So we just had layers of confusion, and I haven't played, so I don't even really know.
There's like 4 or 5 different things here.
Yeah.
So there's the beginning of this whole thing, which was, it all started way back when we had Nikita on our podcast.
Yes.
And we discovered the blacked out head thing wasn't intended.
Yes.
It was, the blacked out head and thorax was actually a bug. So then I started to think about like all the fucking mechanics.
Yeah, the weird damage mechanics.
That I and a very small number of people, it seems, actually understand how the things work, whether it's bullet penetration, fragmentation, like all these things. So I started to be like, hey, do you know about fragmentation? Hey, do you know about this? You know about like all of these, all those things. And one of the things I did was, and it was kind of inspired by the video that I made, The Illusion of Choice, one of the Getting Tarkov videos where I talk about the ammo, and I quiz all the, I had the like Google quiz.
So good.
And it was like a picture of a dude with like, you know, he's got 80% HP in his head and his chest. Everything else is blacked out. And it's like, if I shot you with 995, you know, the 2,000 ruble a round bullet in your arm, how many bullets would it take? And everybody was like 2, 1, you know, whatever. And it was like 11.
Yeah.
So I showed that to Nikita. And he was like, I can't be right. I'm like, well, that's how it works. And he was like, oh, something must be wrong. At first, he thought that maybe the multiplier was busted, like the blacked out limb multiplier. Like maybe it was like 0.07 rather than 0.7. But I am like, I assure you it's not that.
Yeah.
And I basically was like, listen, I showed him source code and images of my like simulation. And then I juxtaposed it next to footage of like, you see where I take PS and you tap on PMC's right leg and you see his health go down to, you know, 368. And then video footage of in the game shooting it, you see 368. And it was like, then I shoot his arm 3 times and it goes down to like 211. And then I do the same thing in the game and it's like it just matches perfectly. And I'm like, so I can explain to you, if you want, the rules that you're using. Because the disconnect wasn't that there's a bug with like the numbers. It was an error in logic. It was basically, maybe we talked about this last time, the idea of like how you spread out the damage.
Yeah, a little bit, because I think you had just had that conversation where he was like, I don't think you're right, and you're like, let me tell you something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm like, please just listen, because I've never been so sure of anything.
Yeah.
So he basically said, okay, we're gonna have a fix out in a couple of days, whatever. Then I get a message from him yesterday or the day before, I forget now.
Yeah.
Was it 2 days ago?
It was Wednesday that the patch went live. So
yeah. So where he was like, we pushed out the change just now, please check it. So first raid of the day, I literally went in, and because I have been working on implementing a new and improved simulator for the damage stuff, that it's just going to be for me and for content. Like I'm probably not going to distribute it, for a bunch of different reasons. But it also, like, I needed to rewrite it anyway because of the changes. So I figured I might as well just incorporate into that. So, so I wanted to figure out because he didn't say what the changes were other than now damage will be propagated to there's about 10 different ways of doing it. So we get into the game, and well, the first thing I have up on screen, the 2 guys in Discord that are like 2 viewers that are like broadcasting their stream, and I was gonna like crop out just to have their bodies, so that I could see their HP pools and I could shoot them and then record it, and it was like one of the guys was in a live raid, and he's like, all right, I'm just gonna try to like die basically and get out of the shoreline raid, and he jumped off of the cliff. You know, the cliff right next to resort. He jumped off it, landed, fine. Ran all the way up the thing, jumped off it, landed, fine. He couldn't die.
So before you even started your testing, he found basically what would end up being the misunderstanding by attempting to kill himself so he could get in a raid with you.
Just so he could get out of the raid. And I'm like, oh, if you're in offline mode, just like disconnect, like whatever. And he's like, and I'm like, maybe it's a bug in offline mode. He's like, no, I'm actually like in a shoreline raid. This is like a live raid. And he was literally just running.
Oh my God.
With blacked out legs, with like no HP in his head or his chest, like nothing. Well, I mean, like 1 or 2 points of HP, but he's running and he was like taking damage, like every 3 steps, but he wasn't dying. What killed him was his bleed. The bleed was slowly ticking down. So then we got into a raid, and what happened was I shot in the leg, and then it took off like 54 health, and was like, okay, that's exactly what I would expect. I think I was shooting 9mm PST. 54 health. I'm like, cool. I shot him in the leg again. Then it took off like 11. And then I shot him in the leg again, and nothing happened. Shot him in the leg again, nothing happened. And I was like, bah, 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 and he was just going, and his health wasn't moving. So basically, they had pushed out, with the bug being that there was no damage propagation whatsoever from blacked out limbs, which was unintentional. And,
of course, yeah.
And Nikita himself was like, I mean, I know exactly how he feels because I've done this before, where you like test something, you QA it, you're whatever, you go to push it out, but something happens in the deployment process, where it's like you accidentally typo which tag you're going to deploy, or you forgot to merge the stuff in. There have been times where we open up a pull request where that's where you see the whole like code review, when everything is going to get merged, and everybody goes, yep, great, and then everybody's like, great, push it. And then they deploy from like the master branch, but they never merged the code. It was still sitting there. So everybody said, give a thumbs up. And they said, okay, great. And then the guy just pushes what's already there out. Okay. And then it's like, what the fuck? So somehow, I don't know what the deal is, but somehow they pushed out something broken. He was like, we fucking tested this. Like I could tell he was kind of embarrassed and a little bit pissed off. Yeah. And within the hour, they had pushed out the fix. And he was thankful that I was able to catch it. And then I did my testing, and what I found out was it's like 95%, 90% is where we're at. So it's not fixed. I found I found a use case where it doesn't properly handle logic. So then what I did was finished implementing. So I was able to figure out what he wanted. Like what the rules should be. Then I was able to implement that logic without the bugs that they have. And then I wrote it all out, commented it all out, sent him my code, and basically was like, here's the logic you guys want. Here's the use cases that you're not covering. Here's how I implemented it. And I know how they implemented it. Yeah. Because I can tell, like, I know exactly the error in logic that they made. Because so what used to happen before was the damage would spread. So let's say you blacked out your arm. Yeah. Let's do leg because it's easier because the multiplier is 1, so you don't have to multiply it by anything. Oh, really? Let's say your legs. Yeah, the leg is 1. So if you get damage, there's a 50 damage bullet, and your leg is blacked out. Your HP should go down by 50. Okay, understood. I didn't know that the blacked out leg was 1. I know the arms are like 0.7, but okay. Yep, and then the stomach is 1.5. Yeah. So if you get shot in the stomach, it should be, for a 50 damage bullet, it'll be 75. Okay. So that's the way it used to work was that damage, let's say it was 50 damage. Okay. It would get sliced up proportionately. Yes. Equally proportionately, which is the hard thing, where it was like, so the chest was, 20% of the total body's HP, and the head was 3%. So the head would take 3% of that damage, the chest would take 20%, but then that means that if everything else was blacked out, then 23% of the damage goes through and everything else disappears. Yeah. So that was the bug. The logic that they implemented after they fixed the first bug, or second bug, third bug, I don't know. After they fixed they pushed the hot fix. Yeah. It was basically, let's say there's 50 damage. Okay. What it does is it says, how many zones of the body are there? Let's just say there's just your chest and your head. How many zones are left with HP in them? Okay. Yep. Okay. So 2. So 2. So that means 25, 25.
Oh.
Which actually means that like now, if you think about that now, and this might be a good thing, but I just thought it was an interesting sort of observation. You're almost always going to die. Like your head HP is going to be the threshold because it's only 35.
And if you have damage to your head at all already, and any sort of decent flesh damage round hits you in the leg or stomach, since there's a 1.5 multiplier, you're just dead.
Yep. So because before you could actually look at it visually where all of the zones of the body, no matter how many there were, if there was 1, there was 2, there was 5, when you get that overflow damage, all of the bars would all move exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like a third of the bar, a third of the bar, a third of the bar. But because those bars represent different sizes, it was disproportionate. So that meant that, like, let's say, you know, every time you got hit, it would take a quarter off of the bar. Your head and your chest would just be 75%, 50%, 25% dead. But now it's going to be your head goes from 35 to, you know, like 10. Your chest goes from, you know, 85 to 75. And then your head is going to be the linchpin.
So the
use case?
Yeah.
So that's but I didn't cover the use case though.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that's what Nikita wanted.
Okay.
And that's okay. But the problem is that they didn't account for what happens when the remaining parts of the body have less HP than you've split up. So let's say you have an arm and a head and chest.
Okay. So 3 limbs.
And let's say it's 60 damage.
Okay.
So it's going to be, and you get shot in the blacked out leg, it's going to be 20, 20, 20.
Yeah.
If your head's full and your chest is full, your chest goes from 85 to 65.
Yep.
Your head goes from 35 to 15.
Yep.
But what if your arm is at 2? It goes from 2 to 0.
Oh, and that 18 disappears.
Yep. So that 8. So they didn't account for that use case where what happens when. So my logic that I went through is actually, it might sound more complicated. I don't know. I haven't actually explained it to anybody, but in code, it's pretty simple. Basically, what I do is I take all the limbs that you have in your body, all the ones that have HP remaining.
Yeah.
And I order them from smallest to largest in terms of how much HP they have left. So you end up with, in that case, you'd have the arm with 2, and then the head with 35,
and then the chest,
the chest with 85. And then I would say, take 2 from all 3. So you take 2 from the arm, now the arm's blacked out. Then you take 2 from the chest, 2 from the head. Great. You just took 6 damage away from 60. Well, now there's 54 damage that you divide by 2 against the remaining limbs. So basically, you're just, every time you go through, there's 3 limbs, and you equally get rid of that one limb and go to the next 2, and then you basically just trickle that down until you have fatal damage, or you run out of damage.
Yeah. And so that sounds, and I get what you're saying, how like that sounds complicated to say that, but we're talking about like that gets executed still in the same amount of time. You know what I mean? Like it's a simple task for a computer to do, but it sounds complicated to be like, yeah, check every limb and then you do that and then this is 2 and then you cross it off, but it's pretty simple. Have you noticed, like, even with the change that it's currently in, have you noticed like time to kill feeling faster? Yeah.
Yeah, it feels way better.
Better or faster? Because I thought you were an advocate for slower time to kill. I guess better. Better can mean a few different things. Better because it's more intuitive. Like I'm shooting this guy. Yeah.
Consistency.
So that makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
The range of shots to kill. If you just look at like average distribution with average bullets and average armor, it would be 1 bullet or 15 bullets, which is like you get in one fight and you one tap a dude to the chest,
and then
another fight and you're going and you're using 8.56A1 or like maybe not the best ammo, so now it went from 1 to 15 to now it's like 1 to 7.
Yeah.
Because now if you think about, and the other part of it is that it's way more intuitive.
Yeah. That's
because
it feels better in that way.
The shots to kill, you literally, if you ignore the multiplier, because I mean the multipliers, they're significant but not hugely significant.
Yeah.
You can get really close, get to the fucking 5-yard line.
Yeah.
of understanding if you just don't even think about the multipliers and just think, okay, well, if you have 440 HP, how much damage does a bullet do? Let's say it does 60. Okay, that's 7 to 8 shots to kill. You just literally take your HP and divide it by the damage.
Yeah, yeah.
You could not do that before.
And you get close enough to be good at the video game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is more complicated than that, but what you're saying is like, that's a close enough thing to get you in the ballpark of like, you kind of know how many shots this round is going to take. And so go after them.
The only complicated part of it is that if you shoot him in the chest, I mean, you have to know about penetration because this is
of course
independent of
this
armor.
Is just flesh
but it's
damage,
like, I mean, nothing's changing when you get hit in the chest or the head.
Yeah,
it's still like 1 or 2 bullets and you're dead. So you can just take the total HP and divide it by the number of bullets, and that's how many bullets it'll take if you shoot them in the same leg. Or you can maybe add 1 more bullet if it's in the arm, and maybe 1 less bullet if it's in the stomach.
Yeah.
It's honestly pretty easy. So now you're talking, a bullet that does 60 damage. Worst case scenario, you will never have more than 8 shots to kill anybody.
Yeah. Is this gonna be the age of the shotgun like meta? Something like Magnum Buck's got 8 pellets, 50 damage per pellet. How much HP does a leg have?
Let me actually pull up my simulator because I was messing around with this the other day. Legs have 60, I think.
Yeah.
It's either 60 or 65. I can't remember.
That's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just I was wondering. That was just one of the first things I thought was like, okay, Magnum Buck to the leg. 8 times 50, that's 400 potential damage if all pellets hit. All pellets won't hit, but if you're far enough away, so you're hitting both legs, boom, boom. That's a lot of damage.
I mean, yeah. So it might be that either this is what Nikita wants, all the guns to be a little bit more viable.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll have to adjust some of the parameters for the bullets now that it's working the way they intend.
Yes, and I think that's what I was going to say too, is that like it doesn't mean that we've arrived at the final form. It's just that like any adjustments that they've been making to this system on like balancing weapons or ammo have been balancing a broken system, and broken as determined by what Nikita wants, right? Because at the end of the day, what's right is just however Nikita and the game devs want to do it. But if this is how they want to do it, maybe now they watch and they see and they observe and they're like, hey, these types of weapons are a little bit more powerful. Maybe we'll do this. So we can adjust now that we're at least closer to where they want to be. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we should be able to come up with a number now if we think about it, because ultimately, in order to kill someone to 1 shot to the leg, all you have to do is the damage number needs to be it's 65 for the leg, and then you're just going to have it be 35 to the head. Like that's the lowest common denominator. So really it's 35 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 210 damage plus, so 210 plus 65. So anything that does 275 damage or more will 1-tap to the leg.
And if you hit all 8 pellets, well, all 8 pellets of Magnum Buck do 400 damage. So that means you can miss a few of them. You know what I mean?
And that's assuming that my assumptions are correct. I haven't tested everything, all the shotguns.
What was the number? 275?
275, because it's 210. So 210 being all of the so wait. How did I come up with 210?
I don't know.
So because you're dividing the damage equally.
Oh, yeah.
210 divided by the other 6 zones would be 35, 35, 35, 35, which means it would kill you to your head.
Yes, that makes total sense to me.
So 210 and then plus 65 for the leg because you have to.
Yeah. Dude, the shotgun rip round does 265 damage.
It's probably a good thing it does 200. So wait, that means if I grab the rip round.
Yeah, the
let me shoot myself in the leg.
12 gauge rip.
I'm
good.
Just so You know what? I could.
Oh, dude, what is? It's got. Yep. How much?
Which is exactly
Yes.
is exactly what you. So keep in mind that this should be 0.
Yeah.
But this is like 1 or 2.
Exactly. So yeah, that round hitting the leg blacks out the leg, all the splash over damage then gets divided by all of the limbs. So everything would be, so yeah, it's not that your whole body would be close to being blacked out. It's that everything would have damage taken out, your leg would be blacked out, and your head's going to be real close.
Yep.
Real,
so and if you think about
close.
it, that like 35 is, like a little bit less than half here, but it's more than half here. So this is the same number now, not the same proportion.
Yes.
Yes. So I mean,
understood.
I'm so glad this worked first time. So yeah.
Nice.
This is a work in progress. I actually just finished this little UI.
Yeah.
But I mean, God, now Flechette 1, 2.
Ooh.
So 2 shots with Flechette, assuming that
you hit all the pellets.
You hit all the pellets.
Yeah.
What about to the arm? 1, 2. Ooh.
Oh. Dude, 9 mil rip.
9 mil rip to the leg.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Fucking Glock.
Dude, out of a Glock? Or a vector spray down?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Dude.
1, 2,
oh,
3.
Yeah. So 3 to the tummy or the legs, 4 to the arm.
So basically aim for the kneecap. And,
yeah.
But I mean, again, think about it. If I have an M1 with M80, most people are just going to go boop, one shot to the head or the chest and you're going to die. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, it's not crazy. And you would still lose a straight up aim duel between someone who just had like a proper rifle round and shot you in the chest or the head. But at least now these things are like viable.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. It really comes down to the same age old thing with leg meta is like in a perfect world, it takes 3 shots, but like, can you hit 3 to the same leg without taking any shots yourself? You know what I mean? Exactly. If I've got M61 or M80 or 55A1, you know what I mean? If you're getting aim punched, can you hit those? Can you hit all 3 of those shots? If yes, you win. You know what I mean? And if not, maybe you should have brought an ammo where you could shoot to the face. So I don't think
this is like one of the biggest fucking changes to Tarkov at like almost ever. Like
now,
this is huge.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You can still get a blacked out head and thorax, right? Like they didn't fix the original bug.
No.
Sick. Maybe that'll come. I'm sure.
Yeah, and I mean, and
the use case for that is still low. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't happen a lot because it has to be to a bleed, but it can't but it can't happen still.
I mean, honestly, I would be okay if they left that in there.
Yeah.
If they left that in there and then added one more piece of logic that says if you take any damage at all, because you die.
Because that went away, right?
Like, which would get rid of the difference. But if you have 1 HP in your head, that's bad. You'd rather have 0 HP in your head. So at least it would make it the same, where if your head is low or 0, that's bad, and the next tick of damage will kill you.
That's true. I think I agree with that. I'm actually okay with you being able to get a blacked out head or thorax. Just add the logic that means when I get shot in really anywhere, but especially in the head or thorax, that I have to die and not just push that damage elsewhere. Like one little string that these are the vital limbs, and if they're blacked out, it's just you got one more chance. Get out of there, and if you don't, you're dead. You know what I mean? I'm cool with that.
And then, like, honestly, I don't know how they architected their code or how any of it works, but like, for me to implement that in my system here, it would be literally 3 lines of code. And if this one specific use case, I have a function called die, and then it would just be a closing bracket, right? Like, that's it.
That's it.
So I mean, it's not like it's.
I'm excited. I'm glad we talked about this because I was a little sad because I knew it was going to be closer to what Nikita wanted, but I was sad that time to kill was going to be shorter, and I was only viewing that as a bad thing. But talking about, like, we've talked so much so about whether you love a game feature or not, consistency feels good. You know what I mean? Being able to know what to expect feels good. And now this will effectively remove the quote unquote arm meta, right? Where all the damage, like, because if you're hitting them in the arm, you can rest assured that every piece of that damage is being applied to them. Maybe not all to their thorax, like if their arms were down, but you're not losing out on potentially 30, 40, 50% of your round's damage. So that is nice,
and
actually.
There's a bunch of implications too that now I have to rethink all of the heuristics I've learned in my head.
Yeah.
So now CMS kits and serve kits, it might completely change. All I have in my head is that it might change because now those points of damage, are they relevant? I don't know. I have to think. Like, there's a lot of things we have to rethink about how other mechanics are going to work. I'm not sure. So I'm planning on, once I get this simulation up and running and working fully, I'm going to do a video and I'm going to explain what we just talked about, where it's like, here's what it used to be, here's what happened.
Yeah.
Because there were a bunch of videos that came out on that day saying everything's broken.
Yeah,
and then a bunch of people
100%.
were saying it's broken. There were a few videos that basically said Veritas got them to change it to this. And this is what we have.
Of course.
Which is like...
Yeah, of course.
So then people are pissed off and it's like, ugh.
You don't understand anything. In theory, right, CMS kits would be better because it would bring the limb back to a lower, currently, until they fix what you said, because they bring your limb back to lower, and when that limb gets blacked out again, the rest of the damage goes away. So, like, until they fix it, like the literal one specific use case, you said it's still broken, means that a lower HP limb is favorable.
I don't know. Is it?
Because if you could CMS your arm back to 5 health and 30 damage was supposed to go to that arm, 25 of it goes away.
But it wouldn't matter if you had 1 HP in all of your other limbs, but it was 1 out of 35 versus 1 out of 2 because you CMS'd at 27 times. It doesn't matter.
That's true.
The fact that you have 1 HP in the limb is what's significant. That means it's going to eat up 1/5 or 1/6 or 1/2 of the damage.
Yeah.
So
true.
Having blacked out limbs
is bad.
So that's actually huge, because that basically every limb you have blacked out means that it's, you go from having a 1 out of 7, essentially 1 out of 7 zones chance of dying, to then 1 out of 6, to then 1 out of 5, to then 1 out of 4, to then basically like if you lose all your limbs except for your chest and your head, you're basically going to get one tapped.
Yep.
Almost all the time.
So that's
if
true.
not 2 tapped.
That's true. It could bring back that conversation of like CMS versus Survive 12 and stuff like that. Interesting. Well, that's cool. I'm definitely glad we talked about that, because I had no idea how that went down. I just knew that it was like that the pitchforks were coming out, that people were freaking out, and that you were like borderline invulnerable for parts in certain cases.
Dude, in the first raid I played, a dude was spraying me down in customs, and I did like a 180, and it was funny because I made some snarky comment like, yeah, leg meta my ass, because everybody was being like, this is going to make leg meta blah. And I'm like, I don't know what the result is going to be. We have to see all this stuff. Yep. And then so the dude sprayed down my fucking legs, and I literally 180 and shot him like twice, and he died. And I was like, you just got fucking turned on. And then an hour later is when we find out. That's when we did the testing. Yep. And I was like, oh, I survived there because he hit me in the leg and nothing was happening. That guy got totally fucking screwed over, and I felt pretty bad about it. There are 2 other things that I talked to Nikita about really quickly.
Okay.
He is aware of the fragmentation not occurring when the pen is less than 20.
Yeah.
So he knows about that. I don't know. I didn't ask a follow-up.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to fix it or whatever? So he's known about that. And also he's known about the shoreline exfil. He's known about that for like he wasn't surprised, at least. I don't know how long he's known about that, but he's like, yeah, I know, we're aware.
Man, so it's either not a priority or they don't really want to bring it back.
Or the third option is that like it's an annoying thing that like maybe Unity will fix it, or who knows, maybe they ran out of like light assets that they could put on the map, and so they're like, we just got to get rid of one bulb. Yeah, let's do it at this one.
We got to get rid of one bulb.
Shit up.
Yeah,
I'm making shit up, but I don't know.
I mean, it's not that. It's not. Yeah, it's not the big deal. But that's funny. That's funny. Okay, so there's a lot to go through. We can first kind of go through because I just know that people, it's been a really big thing, and there was a lot of confusion around the beginning. There was the whole quote unquote dynamic loot. Fence popped up a message that was basically, it was super weird, the message, but it was basically heads up. The loot's not where you think it is. Go find it. Like, I think there were plot holes and like, why did all the scavs take the really expensive loot from the locked rooms and then put it somewhere else? Why didn't they just take it? Like, it was weird. People were reading too much into it. And it's like, look, that was Nikita texting us all in game and saying,
suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, the loot is gone. Like, don't worry about it. But, and then, so there was panic mode. There was, I'm looting, all the keyed rooms and labs, and all I have is like a book. And then it was like, this is a weird event. And then Nikita was like responding to people on Reddit saying this is the first in many steps towards dynamic loot. And then people were still calling it an event. And then Nikita came on one of the podcasts. I basically pulled out all the information about this from each of the things and just put it here. So he was talking about how this is the first of many changes towards dynamic loot. He talks about how he didn't like how like farmable loot was and how predictable loot was specifically. This is very obviously not the final form of dynamic loot, but what they want is, and apparently this is in the game, that loot spawns in more areas now as opposed to specific places. So like if a LEDX spawn was moved from Ultramed, I'm just making this up, to a different store and interchange, the LEDX could spawn anywhere loot can spawn in that store. It's not like, Shoreline 222, there's one shelf, there's two shelves the LEDX can spawn on. Now, in theory, it would spawn anywhere in 222. Like that. That's kind of what he was talking about, which I like in theory. Once again, I don't know how the extent it's in the game. I don't know how well.
So you don't check the shelf. You have to check everything in the room.
Exactly, because there are a lot of people that farm money that like unlock a room and they don't check the room. They run to one shelf and just turn around. And the theory would be like you have to check that whole room for that potential spawn.
So now like I wonder if like red key card in 218 could be like in that green crate.
Dude, like yes, I don't know.
I have no idea.
They also talked about things like the airplane on woods. You could always find like car batteries and stuff out there like every once in a while. Apparently that's like a spot now where you can find like good stuff.
Oh shit.
Okay. And as the days progressed with people kind of like freaking out about the loot, we kept getting stuff from like Logical Solutions about how like a lot of the highest value loot was buffed. Like the percent spawn chance for that specific item was buffed in some cases up to 300%. Like LEDXs were buffed by 100%, graphics cards by 50%, Golden Roosters by 300%. And then Nikita ended up following that up when he was on the community podcast with Geeks, because the community podcast was the most recent one with Geeks and Sneaky Russian. And he was like, there's actually more loot in Tarkov, more high value loot in Tarkov right now than there was a month ago. It's just you guys aren't looking for it because we're all very just programmed to like, this is my LEDX spot, leave, farm it. So they moved the loot around, then buffed the loot, but we're really bad looters and that's not even on us really. That's the game taught us to be really bad looters because the game was set up in a certain way. So now we just suck at looting, and we all need to just work on it because there's more loot in Tarkov right now. It's super interesting. So he's been very clear about how this is not the final form of dynamic loot, but that they're testing these exact things. Like, can we make LEDXs? Yeah, I guess that's true. Not bad looters, just efficient at the old method. True. That's a better way to put it. But like they're just like testing these things out and then seeing what's going to happen. So like I said, I haven't played for the past few days, so I do not know. I can't speak to it. I was still having fun. Like it happened like 2 days before I left, and I was still having fun and finding like okay enough stuff. But it's definitely moved around.
Have they changed anything in the last? So the over the last 2 or 3 days, has there been like changes every day, or could I explain like what my experience has been over the last 3 days, and that would explain? Like I have no idea.
No, there have been changes almost daily.
Oh, okay. Because I remember the first day, there was jack shit. There was nothing. Like it was the day after I had decided to take the green key card into labs.
Oh my God.
And I did about 3 hours of labs runs, and I think I got 1 cheese and 1 stim in like 3 hours of green card of runs.
So here's the thing. As I understand it, day 1, because once again, he said before they buffed the loot, he said, we have not taken any loot out of the game. We just moved where it was. So as I understand it, day 1 of the change, the same amount of loot was spawning. It was just spawning in places that, according to their heat maps, people never go, ever. So it felt like there was no loot. And then you can go back and we'll like look at like Logical Solutions Twitter. Almost every day for the past few days, he was like, GPUs were buffed by 50%. And then he was like, and then one day it was like huge loot buff. Almost every single high value item in the game got a huge buff. So they moved all the loot around. Nobody was finding it. They buffed the loot. Everybody was still sad that there was no loot. And apparently we're just all running past the super high valuable loot, which I love, with the exception of like labs is an interesting conversation to have, because like labs is a place where like that logic might not work. Like it works on woods and interchange and shoreline, but like labs is like locked rooms, the map. You know what I mean? Like
it makes sense if the value of the cards comes way down.
Yes.
Because the 200,000 ruble entrance fee is enough to say if you kill 2 raiders, you have enough in armor, guns, ammo, and grenades.
Yeah.
You've made your money back. So if the green key card wasn't 5 million and instead it was 150,000, well then it would be worth it.
And there's
now this was the period of time where I made more money on that first day when there was no loot than any single day I played the game. And you want to know why? Because I went to labs and nobody was playing labs.
There. Yep.
And I would run around and I'd end up just grabbing just a bunch of random shit, but I would end up getting some gun attachments and 1 or 2 stims, and then I would kill 8 raiders and have my pick of their armor and their weapons and their ammo.
Yep.
And then I would get out. And I could just do that all day long because people were like, there's no loot there. So I was just fucking printing money.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was great. Honestly, it was great because it was like my profit is now tied to my like ability to fight, not my ability to get to a room faster.
First, yeah.
Hit F on the things on the shelf.
And then fight your way out.
And then fight your way out.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's definitely like an interesting thing. The thing we have to remember is that like this will happen again and again and again as I don't know if they've increased. I haven't heard anything about them increasing the spawn chance of cards, but I would imagine that the price of those cards on the flea market has to have gone down at least some because the perceived value of those cards are less. And so we have to understand that this phenomenon is going to happen many more times where we view the game this way because this is the game that we're playing. They make a change that, helicopter 10,000 foot view is better than the game. It makes one item for a period of time vastly, like disproportionately not worth it. Right after they made the change, while the green keyed cards were still 6 million and there was no loot, judging the change, and how good it is for Escape from Tarkov based on the few days where that is happening is unfair because the player base hasn't adapted to it. Potentially Nikita might see that and then adjust some spawn chances. You know what I mean? Like when the big changes happen, we kind of have to give it time to to play out, and then for them to make those micro adjustments before we just say, oh, well, this is stupid, this key's 50 million. Well, it's 50 million because for the past year you could make that much money out of it. If you can't anymore, it won't be 50 million. So but it brought up a lot of interesting conversations. Like, I have always thought it was relatively simple, but people freak out in my chat all the time, like, well, if there's dynamic loot, what is the point of keys? And that's it. At least I don't know what they're going to do about it, but it feels very simple to me, where it's like, let's say the LEDX has a spawn chance. I know it's not this simple, of like 1% in this medical area, right? Like, this key, like Ultra Med, because it's a med room, it can have a 7% chance.
Well, so
like,
here's
that
the thing.
Feels simple to me, because like right now there's loot that you can only acquire via locked rooms. So locked rooms seem OP. And then people are like, well, like, to me, dynamic loot isn't the exact same ability to get a high value loot outside of a locked room. It's just an ability to get that high value loot outside of a locked room, and a slightly higher chance of getting that loot in a locked room. So now the locked room isn't prohibiting people that don't have the key, but it's still a valuable asset to have in your arsenal because you have an increased chance. It means that if you spawn on the other side of the map, you might check the medical area closer to you instead of just SJ6ing and hightailing it to the other side of the map. That seems pretty simple to me.
The thing is that, like, the question you're posing, there's a fallacy there, and it's presupposing one particular definition of dynamic loot. Like, the unstated premise when someone says, if loot is dynamic, what's the point of keys?
Yeah.
The unstated major premise that person is making is, what I mean by dynamic loot is anything can spawn anywhere.
That's very true.
But who the fuck said that?
Yeah.
Nobody said that.
Yeah, nobody said that was the definition of dynamic loot.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that, you're gonna open up a fucking medical case and find a slick armor. Like, they're and again, we don't know, but the point is that there's a million ways that they could do it.
Yeah.
And they could make it so that the spawn chances are much higher for like the good rare shit in like marked rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also a wider range of things that can spawn there.
Yeah.
And then also a wider range of other things that can spawn all over the place. So like the average value, right? Because right now it's 98% of the value is in one room for 2 locked rooms, and then everything else is just junk that, that if you're a scav, you can just pick up bolts and, get 20,000 rubles per bolt. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that like there's value and then there's value, and you could run by 10 boxes and walk by 10 bolts and nails or whatever, and those are 20,000 rubles, and then you can find one, like find a fucking factory key and be like, oh, Pog, when the factory key's worth 50,000 rubles.
See, that's the thing. That is a completely other like side piece to this, is that like the community in large part, not everybody obviously, fundamentally like views value wrong. They would a lot of times they will sacrifice a 500,000 ruble to a 1 million ruble kit 3 raids in a row in labs to get the one raid where they looted green room, and hope to make 3 million rubles because that covers the past 3 raids on labs and may put some potential profit. Where Gingerliness, I don't know if you saw what she's been doing, but praise Lord Nikita for her. What she did over these past few weeks was one of the single greatest things in Escape from Tarkov history. Right now, after the Tarkov loot event where there's no loot, she said, I think I can make 100 million rubles in 100 scav runs. And she made 100 million rubles in 98 scav runs right now. Like, she'd been doing it for a while. They made the event and she kept doing it. She just finished like last night or something like that.
Holy fuck.
Yes, dude. So
I'm assuming she went reserve.
No, a lot of woods. She said a lot of woods and a lot of reserve.
Oh yeah, a lot of people have been saying woods is good.
So like,
because of all the fucking junk. Because all the junk has value.
100 million. I've never had 100 million rubles ever in my Tarkov career. I've never had that much money. And now I can scav every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Because of scav karma. So it's like, so we definitely do need to have the conversation about what dynamic loot really means. And we do need to, like, it is an important topic to figure out where the high value loot goes, how often it spawns. But as a community, we need to remember that like bolts add up, factory keys add up, and you might spend 1 million rubles finding eletics that you can sell for 500,000 rubles. You know what I mean? And so I just thought, I was like, dude, go get it. That's so sick.
Dude, if you just fill up a pilgrim with bolts, that's 750,000 rubles.
Yeah, 100%. So there's a lot. There's a lot. She is a beast. She's a beast. So I thought that was really cool. So that's like a separate thing. It's like we need to remember that everything has value. You know, guys like Willers, who when we had him on the podcast, he talked about this long before Scav Karma, before the dynamic loot. He talked about everybody's like, bro, how do you make 100 million rubles the first week of the wipe? He's like, I don't quest. I go to the back of interchange and I pick up bolts and elite pliers and tape and duct tape, and I loot the violent cabinets and I sell all that. I make 100 million rubles. Then I buy my keys and I start farming the high value stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's always been the same. The guys who make all the money understand that there's so much more value. And it's one of those things where it's like, I get it. I get why high level players farm high tier loot, because it's fun and there's almost guaranteed PvP, and it's like, why not? But we can't watch that and think that's the only way to make money, because then people who are like not new to the game, but like medium, they have a few hundred hours in, they think that's, well, I've done the, you know, as my second, third wipe, I guess that's what I do now. And it's like, man, if you just want money, there's ways to do it. If you just want PvP, there's more than that way to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
if you just, when I was playing, there was a period of time where I was focusing on trying to make money, because I had just done a bunch of science videos and spent all my money and got rid of all my gear or whatever. I'm like, all right, I need to spend a couple of days and like, you know, farm a little bit. But it was like, if you can spend 15 minutes in a raid, and in that time period, you were just checking everything near you.
Yep.
Boxes, shelves, crates, whatever. And then you make it out. You make so much money.
Yep.
Compared to, and that's independent of what you take in with you, as long as you're not like tagged and cursed.
Yep. It's
just avoid any and all combat and survive with 15 minutes worth of anything in your bag.
Anything.
And that's infinite more money than if you fill your bag with the best shit you got from a fight that you won in a 1v5.
Yep.
And then the next raid lose the kit, and then the next raid win a 1v5 and fill a bag with the best stuff from those people, and then lose. At that point you're like breaking even, which is why I'm always at like 100,000 rubles, because it's like just enough to make a kit and whatever, and then but if you just avoid, I mean, I ended up going on a couple of servers and just doing like shoreline night runs, and I literally came across like 2 people in an 8-hour stream, and I made like 10 million rubles. And it was like, now in the eyes of Twitch chat, I have transcended and become the streamer that they all expected with all the money I've made, when in reality all I did was just avoid playing the fucking shooter game.
Exactly. And then
I turned it into Minecraft.
It's like, oh, you're a rat and it's this and it's that. But it's like, at the end of the day, there's just so much more to Tarkov than Shift W. And I have no problem with Shift W. What I do is, I've been doing that a lot. I've been just like going in interchange, SJ6, Shift W, because I'm trying to refine my PvP skills. But it's like, if you want to make money, you just survive. And the more competent you get at surviving, the more competent you get at the game, then you can take risks. It's survive, but maybe I can take this fight because, I feel like I'm in a position where I can win it. You know what I mean? And it's...
Yeah, so one of the things I was looking at when I was trying to go over this thing, like, because I've asked a bunch of times, I've had this like existential crisis around how the fuck do all these people make so much money, whatever. And then that's when I was the first time I had heard about Hyperrat.
Yeah.
Who we should probably have on here sometime soon. I was talking to him, and I think he'd be interested. And I think people would like having him on here. But I took like 3 hours, and I just watched him play one day. And so there's a couple of things. One, he is very skilled when it comes to PvP.
Yeah.
Like, he's better than me. He'd kill me. Whatever. Like, that's nothing against his skill and ability, because it's there. But the vast majority of the time, and he was making 300, 400 million, 500 million, whatever rubles, just the vast majority of the time he was going into interchange, gobbling all the shit up, and then getting out and not getting into fights except for scavs and the occasional like mid-tier solo dude with an SKS and like level 3 armor.
Yeah.
So he wasn't fighting 1v4s every single raid and then still somehow making money.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't do the analysis, of the full thing, but I just said like, okay, I'm going to watch a little slice and see if I can extrapolate. And it was like, oh, he got in 3 fights. Yeah. One or two of which he lost, but then the other raids he just filled his fucking bag with shit and got out.
Yep. So it's that simple. It's that simple. Yep. Loss, like death is such, like, people just don't understand how much death is such a negative into profit. You know what I mean? Like if you die with 600,000 rubles worth of gear, then you like, it's just like, and you die a few raids in a row, you're so deep in a hole. Like survival at any cost, running away from fights, maybe not going to that locked room because you hear shots over there going around this way and hitting filing cabinets instead. It might not be sexy to some people, but it's profit. And if you can, and you can use that, you can take a weekend and farm up a bunch of money, and then you can attack and try to get better at PvP and play some labs and run towards the shots. But like just learning that and learning how to do that effectively means that you have achieved Tarkov financial freedom, because you then gear fear goes away because you could spend a few days farming up money because you know how to do that. And that's just surviving and running away from fights.
And I guess the question is, and I don't want to like sway this, in a way that works for me, but I guess like, is that, and maybe I'll have to ask Nikita, is that what he wants? I guess. Yeah. So like, if you were to go in and really role play as a military contractor and, not shift W, whatever, but like really immerse yourself in the tactics and the combat.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'd be okay. So if you do that, right, a guy who gets involved in like, using voice comms and he's immersed and he's, doing like the smoke, whatever, this guy, or over here, this guy who he picks the most dead server in the time zone that he could avoid all possible people, goes night times and on a particular map to avoid everybody so that he can survive.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're supposed to do, is survive. It's like, well, yes, but at the same time, it's like survive, but there's a difference between surviving when there's no threats and surviving when you're surrounded by threats. So the thing is that the guy who gets in a fight and has to use, even if he has a 75% survival rate, is going to lose so much more money than the dude who avoids all combat whatsoever and, effectively hatchet runs.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if that's like...
But I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that that's like the point of the game. I'm just saying like when people are like, it's so hard to make money. It's like if your goal of Tarkov is making money, it's not hard. It's not necessarily easy. It's just not as hard as you think it is. You just might be looking at it wrong. If you want to immerse yourself into what Tarkov is, then that's very much so the smoke. That's like, you're going into populated servers, you're going daytime, you're picking battles you feel like you can win, you're avoiding battles you feel like you can't win, you're looting everything. But it's just, that just depends on what the external forces of the game are pushing you to via the quests, the storyline quests, and incentivizing the other things, and it's what you want out of the game, right? Like, because you could do that right with like a battle royale, like with Apex Legends. If you survival is it, then you could drop and like hide
sit in a closet
and keep going the zone, and people do that, but that's not by and large how people play Apex, because even though that would net them a higher win rate, there's this subconscious thing where it's like, I want to fight, you know what I mean? So when people when they pull the vertical slice of like, it's impossible to make money in Tarkov, that's when I'm like, survive. But if you're like, I'm a few wipes in and I just don't know what to do, it's like, all right, like go play the game, go try and pick fights you wouldn't normally pick, try and learn, try and do this. And
so I guess my question is like, if Nikita has like a vision for what he really wants people to play like, I would almost then challenge him to say, well, then how can you motivate people to play that way by rewarding that, whether or not it's, it becomes a lot more complicated because you're talking about this abstract kind of thing.
Yes.
Maybe it's your KD is 50% and your survival rate is 50%, and you like get involved in combat and you kill people, but you die sometimes. Like, and then you know, Fence will give you a weekly stipend based on how many things you've killed, you know, or whatever, right? Like, there's cool game design things you could do to basically say you haven't been the quote unquote rat, and you haven't been the quote unquote Chad. You've been the immersive Tarkov player that we want you to be. Here's a way to incentivize that kind of play by effectively. I mean, the only way you're going to incentivize anything is money in the game.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, who knows how they're going to do it, but there's like a lot of ways they could do it. Like dailies and weeklies are a way, like you don't have to do this quest, but if you want this money as a reward or this XP as a reward or this case as a reward, you know, we're pushing you to, you know, maybe get into some more fights. And then next week it's to do this or do that. The side quests, the events, he's talked a lot about wanting it to be dynamic and more events, you know, events where, like I had always said this before, like remember when they did the dehydration event? Imagine they do the dehydration event. If you're out, your hydration crushes, but there are like airdrops that are like already on the map, like not actually coming in, but like where there's like a bunch of, so the day 2 of the event, therapist is sold out of water. She doesn't have any, it's not spawning. Well, it's like, you don't have to engage in it. And so like, there's a lot of cool things they could do to like encourage, but not require you to like engage in the game in a different way this week than next week if they wanted to.
And all these events have I forgot this earlier. This is what I wanted to say. The events have, like, all of these little changes all the time. They do a really great job of the things that you only used to experience in the first week of the wipe, which was there's a wipe coming and there's a bunch of new quests. So everybody's like, we don't know what things have value. And then once the wiki comes out around like you need bolts on day 7, so then people start collecting bolts or whatever. Now it's like tomorrow, tomorrow tape measures could be the most expensive thing in the game. We don't know. So now it's almost like I kind of want to fucking grab everything and fill up scav junk boxes and just fill them.
It's so good. I think the more they do events like this, it's so good for the game because it's like, tape measures could be the best thing, but then the event isn't around long enough so that it becomes the new meta. It's just like a few days where everything gets shaken up. It's like, oh crap. The guys who are like, I have a scav junk box full of random crap. I think of like 14 tape measures. You guys get ahead and you either get to make a bunch of money or get an item that's maybe exclusive. Like I like that because you can play as the status quo and just do this and PvP and be good at it and loot and be good at it. But there are ways where they can, like, for the people that want it. Okay. So the next thing, I think like right after we filmed our podcast last week, Thursday, Friday or Saturday or something like that, they tweeted out, it was a Reddit thread, and they also tweeted out everything. And I have it pulled up, and they basically said, hello, everybody. It's been a long time without a status report. It's not meant that we do nothing. On the contrary, we are so immersed in the colossal volumes of work that we just don't have time to exhale. Here's a report on what's going on. So the next 4 patches, they basically outlined 12.11.5 is just going to be fixes and optimizations. 12.11.6 is going to be the Unity 2019 and DLSS support. After 12.11.6 is 12.12. This is interesting because as of now, this was the list of 12.12. Lighthouse, daily quests, inertia, VoIP, new weapon malfunctions, and more guns.
That's a lot.
Let's say if all of that makes it in, that's the single biggest patch since 0.12, which 0.12 was when it all, 0.12, 2 months later, they did drops and everything, and Tarkov became the Tarkov we have today. That's the biggest patch. Inertia, and we have talked at length about how VoIP could single-handedly change how every player interacts with the game, how inertia could single-handedly affect how every single player-to-player action happens in the game. In addition to new types of weapon malfunctions, which you can love or hate those, daily quests, and a new map. That's a lot.
That's a lot of shit.
So I read that and I said, cool, 12.12 will happen in June. You know what I mean? I was like, cool, that's a lot.
2022.
Yeah, I was like, that's a lot of stuff, but there's no way we get it this year. Let's pause on that. He said 12.12. So after that will be 12.12.5, where they then do an optimization pass and an improvement pass on like 12.12, which makes sense. Before we talk about it, the tweet continues, and he says, other intermediate patches will have hotfixes, visual improvements, and parts of that will be pushed to the early test servers. 3 new modules will be added to the anti-cheat system to increase the anti-cheat reaction time and overall cheat detection speed. It's a hot topic right now. Although we did great progress on this issue the past few weeks, the war is not over. More events, more podcasts, more related activities. And then he ends it with saying, the next 4 months will be pretty hard and important. We need to provide you with a lot of important fixes, changes in content. Actions speak louder than words. Take care. So I was like, man, you ended that on the next 4 months. So I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, are you trying to say that all 4 of those patches are going to happen before December?
Christmas, basically.
Before Christmas. And then I don't remember if it was the Russian podcast or the community podcast. I think it was the community podcast where he did confirm that the plan as of 3 days ago was all 4 of those patches happen this year. And he was saying that all 4 of the patches are being worked on consecutively. Like there's teams on the coming hotfix. There's teams that have been working with Unity for a really long time. There's obviously the guys that are working on Lighthouse. He said VoIP is almost ready. He said Inertia is about to go to ETS. So all 4 of those patches are being worked on simultaneously. And I want so badly to believe it. You know what I mean? But we'll see. We'll see. It could be a really big year if it happens, right?
I feel like the more words I say, the less likely it is to happen.
I get it. Remember, what was it? 6 months ago, the podcast started with me being like, dude, I'm calling it. Streets is coming out this year, because I was confident, because that's what they said, and I was confident in what they said. So I carry a healthy amount of skepticism for this as well. But what's like, I guess it's not necessarily my opinion. What I find interesting is that, like, at the beginning of the year, we had, Streets was coming out this year. And then they were like, Streets isn't coming out, but Lighthouse is for sure coming out this year. And then before these past few days, the last time we had heard from Nikita seemed apprehensive that Lighthouse was going to come out this year. And then he comes back and hits us with the confidence again after the apprehension that it's coming out this year. Now, later on the community pass, they talk a lot about Lighthouse, and it's looking like they're going to break that map up too. Which is, once again...
Oh, I missed that.
Once again, every map has come in and then been expanded, right? Like, so it's like not that crazy that's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But the big takeaway here is just the sheer size of 12.12 if they get it all in. You know what I mean? Like, that will be... Like, people talk about... Like, that'll be a pre-post moment. People talk about pre and post flea market, like 2 different games. People talk about pre and post drops, like 2 different games. If all that is in there, whether they mess it up or not, if all of those things are in one patch, that will be like did you play pre or post 12.12? Like, you know what I mean? That's a completely different video game we're talking about, with Inertia and VoIP and daily quests, and that's a big deal. So we'll see. We'll see. Veritas is like, I'm not saying a word about this. That's fine. That's fine. So, then Nikita hopped on a Russian podcast, which was translated by many people, but Sneaky Russian does a lot of the times as well. They talked about dynamic loot. We already talked about that. He hit this again, which you will find wonderful, as I did, that the plan is still open world, and that basically they're like, once Streets is in the game, that will be like a focus. Like, they're like not really working on it until Streets. But even just the fact that he's saying that that's still the plan, for me is exciting. I know people are like, oh no, open world, whatever. I want it, and he says it, so I'm excited.
I wonder how did we learn how big Streets was? If it was like bigger than all the maps combined or something?
Bigger than all the maps combined.
Because if you think about it, like, if they can get Streets to run,
they can do open world. Yeah.
Then
he actually
one,
said
then two streets can do it. You know what I mean? Like,
he actually said on this podcast that they are considering, if they have trouble getting it running, Tarkov having 2 maps, Streets of Tarkov and all the other maps we have combined. Like if they can't get it to run, that they would just split it up into 2 maps.
mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Interesting.
Who knows? But open world is still the plan. Sick. They talked in the Russian podcast about when Streets comes out before open world. He was saying that the map will be so big that you wouldn't be able to loot all of it or even close to all of it if you had every second of the raid. It's impossible. So they're considering PMC infills mid raid, which is to me a good idea. If you want open world eventually, you need to test that system out somehow, right? Like if you want open world can't be like 6 billion instances of this giant open world map, because every time there's you know what I mean? Like you couldn't do that. You would have to have infills. So the fact that they're already kind of forward thinking on that and like going to be testing that out potentially on Streets, if I'm assuming then it has a longer raid time, they're talking about that. So that's pretty interesting. They've talked a lot about karma and like how they're super excited about how that's like evolving and that there's still a lot of work to do. They talked about like having like bounty hunters come for people with really bad karma, kind of like the event that's going on right now. And that good.
I'm just about to hit max karma. I'm
really?
Like 5.6 or something.
That's sick.
Finally.
And that good karma and bad karma will have pros and cons. He was saying that they might change how the stashes work, the Jaeger stashes. He was saying similarly, he doesn't like how farmable they are. So he was saying that like they might become a thing that like might spawn in. Like they have like
they should just make those. I mean, I don't know. Rather than have like 15 spots, there should be like 200 spots, and it grabs randomly 15. So like you can't always run to that rock and find the stash. You would have to like notice it and come across it.
That's kind of what he's saying though, is that maybe not increasing it up to like 200 potential spots, but like maps like Shoreline have like 45 secret stashes. So maybe 12 of them spawn in, and it's like you can kind of check, but you don't know if something's going to be there. But that wasn't like super set in stone. That was just something he was talking about.
I mean, I could do that just by literally having like take all the spawn chances of shit and just cut it in half inside of the Jaeger stashes. Then they wouldn't have to make the Jaeger stashes be dynamic because
the loot
inside just half of them are empty.
Yeah. Oh, he talked about airdrops again, and he said airdrops. He said the airdrop system is done. They're just not going to implement it until Streets, and that then they will decide if they want to bring it to other maps. And he said there will be 2 different types of airdrops. There will be chances that once the raid begins, that an airdrop would spawn in a certain spot that are just like static ones you could stumble upon. And there will be airdrops that come in on planes. And he specifically mentioned how it's like Rust, how there is no indicator. There's no like ping that everybody gets that says airdrop is coming in. If you notice the plane, then
you just look up and see a parachute and you're like, oh shit.
Then go run after it. You know what I mean? Which I like. So I thought that was cool how like both of those things could happen. Because once again, I'm a big proponent that like those static airdrops, the like, oh, one must have just happened, are such a great way to move people around. Once again, he's talked at length many times about how they look at the heat maps of player movement and like, oh, you know, if we get a fence message and it's like an airdrop has you know, on the little village on Woods, it's like, you know, we'd all be freaking running there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like to check it out. So I think stuff like that could be really cool. They talked about maybe adding another type of bleed, which kind of makes sense because they've teased a lot of like really big boy medical stuff that we don't have in the game yet, like the big old gauze injectors and a bunch of stuff that we have like work in progress material for, but we don't need because we just use the tourniquets for everything. Overheating and new malfunctions soon. They teased on their Twitter and have been talking about this a lot. There was a PM pistol with I don't know. I'm Chad. Don't hate me. I'm not a gun guy, but like the casing getting stuck in like it doesn't eject because as the slide comes back and then comes forward, it catches the casing. So
that's a stovepipe.
Stovepipe. That was yeah. So like there's a picture of a PM pistol with a stovepipe.
So well, you know that in the history of my history of Tarkov video,
Yes, those have been in the game. Yeah,
the pre-alpha, they had those animations in the game for the stovepipe.
Yeah, in the video that I did on when the weapon malfunctions came out, I found a really old clip of a Val getting it like that and a whole animation to like get rid of it. And I was saying like they got rid of the old. That would only happen when a weapon was at like 10 durability or under, which was never. And then they took the animation out. So those are coming back. He talked about this on a few, so I'll just bring it up once, but he talked about it on multiple of the podcasts he did, where he's like, I love casuals playing the game, but he said something to the effect of, but like the game doesn't like casuals. He's like, I'm down with anybody playing my game, but the game is only going to get harder from here. So just be aware. It's like what he said, basically. He was like, starting now, the changes will basically just progressively make the game harder and harder. And this is don't shoot the messenger. You know what I mean? I'm sure some of the changes will make them harder for the sake of making them harder, and some of the changes will fit really well and be rewarding to overcome. I'm not
the reason why
the guy.
The
you know
reason
what I mean?
why Tarkov is because it's not made for mass appeal.
Yeah.
And it's not built for maximizing sales and profit and in-app purchases. And so like you kind of have to like accept that
they're committing to that vision that they had way before the game blew up and when they thought the game would never blow up. Like Nikita used to say back in 2017, like, my game's not for everyone. And so if everybody tries to play it, it's not his fault that it does exactly, well, it is his fault, but it's doing exactly what it was intended to do, which was be a game that wasn't for everybody. So he's like, it's cool that everybody's trying it and more people than he thought would try it and like it, but it's just not for everybody. Arena is full Steam work in progress, but they do not want to talk about it. And that happened again. So that was on the Russian podcast. And then on one of the English podcasts, somebody asked about it. And he basically said the same thing. He's like, we are full steam ahead working on Arena, but I don't want to talk about it. So at one point he said Arena was coming out this year. I don't think that we should count on that. But like at one point he thought it was close enough. So it might be something that we can see like come to the game next year. You know what I mean? They've been working on it for a while.
You know what I just thought of, which would be fucking unbelievable? You know, in is it Warzone? There's like the gulag.
Yes.
So imagine if, I'm just thinking this is like the scientist in me. You know how often I spend watching people just like walk and stuff. Imagine if you're like up on a balcony that's caged off and you're looking down at like an arena. But like seeing two people from the top or whatever fight. I want to see someone like Willers, but from the third person, fighting somebody, like just see the movement and because you would see the desync and the stutters, and you know, I just think it would be like we'd have a different perspective on Tarkov if you could see a fight behind glass.
Bro, you know, sit down in your hideout and you tune in to like Arena TV and it just like pulls up full screen and you get to like watch arena matches.
Those fucking overhead, in football now they have like the cameras that are on like the fucking drones or whatever, and if it was just like
you could just watch Arena TV, that would be really funny. That would actually be really funny. Arena weapon malfunctions. Oh, by the way, speaking of weapon malfunctions, all weapon malfunctions for every ammo was reduced by 50% last week. So just like you will get 50% less malfunctions. So if you hated those, then that's
the first
nice.
Mouse click I had of the first stream of the first Tarkov I played after that change. I went click.
Sick. That's so.
But then after that, I maybe get like one a day.
Yeah.
But I'm actually starting to get really good at like, I know I always have a mental picture of how many bullets are in a mag, right?
Yeah.
So like if I'm like, okay, I know I'm like low, so I'll reload. There are times I go, and I'm like, must have been
a malfunction.
So it's so now I'm getting, you know, the tap, rack, and bang kind of thing much faster. It's becoming, you know, more of a something that you kind of like train for.
Yeah, for sure. Apparently bolt action's got a buff where they increased the like every bolt action barrel got a velocity increase or something like that.
Were they listening to our podcast like a month ago?
Yeah.
What were you talking about?
Yeah, I mean that's what's said, and like it happened to the barrels if the gun has more than one barrel, like Mosin's, but if it didn't, it just happened to the base stat of the gun.
Weird. I wonder if that made a fucking difference at all.
Yeah, dude, who knows? After 12.12, there'll be a completely new graphics overhaul, like eventually, not like right after, eventually. They're going to work on a graphics overhaul, and he talked about like they would love to include seasons as a part of that, but that might be something.
I want winter.
Yeah, winter Tarkov, but they might. He talked about how like if they were like the reason that they're apprehensive is because if they want to do it, they want to do it Tarkov. Like they would need to figure out how to animate snow falling on the gun, resting like raindrops do. Like, you know what I mean? And like wiping the.
They want to do snow
wiping
falling
the visor,
collecting inside of the
dude.
Stovepiped fucking chamber of the thing. What would happen with the snow? It would make they would do all of that. You know, fucking Kiba would be all
100%, which is why they're considering making that just like a later thing to do when DLC comes out. But they're considering doing it closer as well.
Stovepipe snow cones.
More Stovepipe Snow Cone. That's a great name for a band. Stovepipe Snow Cones. Or a song.
Writing that down.
He said there's going to be your PMC is going to make more noises and get staggered more when getting shot at eventually. Effectively increasing aim punch in a way, like if you're stagger more and stuff like that. They want at least he basically talked about trying to create like a vertical like rushing to a vertical slice of Tarkov being done. He talked about this for a while on the Russian podcast, and he was saying that like a priority for them is to get at least a part of every major feature that's left in, then do an optimization pass on it. And they were it seemed, once again, Russian podcast translated, it seemed like they were talking about that in the context of having newer players get a better expectation set of what the game will be. Because we've talked about that a lot, where like you play the game as it is, you immerse yourself in the game as it is, you get really used to the game as it is, and then changes seem aggressive and they seem it's like a completely new game. So he talked about how they're trying to basically get like some sort of piece of every major feature in to so you can kind of have a better understanding of how this game is going to play out, which makes sense to me. I obviously don't know schedules or how that works, but that makes sense to me.
That seems like a good idea.
It seems like a good idea.
Because you also, I mean, from a software architecture standpoint, like you're basically setting the foundation of the house at the beginning, so then everything makes sense, even though all of the rooms are empty and you have to put up scaffolding. You at least like
you can walk in and get a sense of the floor plan, and you can be like, I bet this is going to be a bedroom, as opposed to just 4 walls, and inside those 4 walls is an immaculate bathroom and the sinks and everything. It's perfect. And then you're just
there's 4 doors and you're like, more coming.
Exactly. And you're like, is this a hotel bathroom? Is this a home bathroom? Is this a townhouse bathroom? Nobody knows what game we're playing. We're all just like, this is a sick bathroom. Dude, our analogies are top tier. All right, we can blaze through some of this stuff. Clean did a podcast. He was asked about like an after action report, being able to play raids back after they're over. He's been asked about that multiple times. He said they're looking into bringing that to arena first because those are going to be quicker matches, I'm assuming, you know what I mean, than a 40-minute or a 50-minute thing. And then he said they'll basically see how that works and then potentially bring that to Tarkov. Interesting stuff here. He talked about, we have heard him say other times, like eventually there will be a patch that they're calling advanced animations. And like, there's going to be an advanced animation patch. Well, he talked about that a little bit. There's going to be unconscious states. There's going to be vaulting. There's going to be climbing. There's going to be main hand switching your weapon.
Wait, vaulting?
Yeah.
Last I heard, he was like, no, we're not doing fucking vaulting.
Dude.
Vaulting that is an insane...
I believe it. Technical hurdle. I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like literally everything, all the environments and the character and the animation and the interactions and everything now has to be interactive and work and not be broken. That's fucking huge,
I know,
dude.
I know. I am merely a messenger. main hand switching, vaulting, climbing, ladders, something he called advanced blind fire, the ability to heal others, and are you ready for this one, Papa? We talked about this. Advanced stealth mechanics and the ability to slowly open doors and a bunch of stuff like that.
Like aim down sights slower or like reload slower. Yeah, I'm fucking looking forward to that.
That's going to be sick. So obviously, who knows? This advanced animations patch could be years away. It could be right around the corner. It could encompass some of these, all of these, or none of these things. But that's what he was talking about. He talked about there's going to be more than one type of unconscious state where like sometimes you'll just wake up on your own, and some unconscious states that will require external help.
I was thinking about that the other day about because like as a solo player, the unconscious state to me is meaningless. Like I'm basically dead, and that was always assuming that like you need a defibrillator or something to bring you back. But I'm just thinking about like, imagine if when somebody goes down, if they still have a really shallow heartbeat and whatever, you could go up, you could loot them, grab their shit and haul out of there
and not know
without know that they were, and then they would come to kind of thing. I mean, that would be a weird experience because what you'd basically have to do as a player is sit and look at a black screen for a minute and a half and just hope that you don't hear the one tap.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is that you'd kill somebody and then you'd have to stand over everybody and go pop right in the forehead, pop right in the forehead, pop right in the forehead.
But that's kind of sick. As long as you don't have to. Like if you give the player the option where it's like you got shot, it says you are unconscious and I hit escape and commit suicide. Like as long as you don't force the player to sit there for 3 minutes and just wait to bleed out.
If they don't force you to stay in a raid and you leave and die instantly, then they shouldn't do it when you. Yeah, exactly.
As long as I can take the L there and it doesn't count as like a lefty action, like he won, I died, I'm gonna leave the loot behind. But then if you wanted to, think about some of these situations. Think about how many times you pop a guy and then get into another fight, and then player scavs come, and then you get into another fight, and you forgot to loot that. You go to the end, you're like, oh, that was that first guy. Imagine that first guy didn't die. What if you wake up and you have all your stuff, and you're like, shoot, and you just run out.
Imagine you wake up and everything's been taken except for your pistol, and there's like a scav going through your backpack.
Hey,
like,
dude,
oh,
exactly. Imagine another thing. How many times have you got
fucking zombie, dude?
How many times have you got a guy with a nade and didn't know till after? Nades are a great thing that would make you unconscious if you were close enough to the blast, but maybe like you didn't get some shrapnel. Like imagine waking up in a bush and you still hear dudes fighting in dorms, and the last thing you heard was a grenade go off, and you're like, yo, he didn't know he got me, and you heal up. Like,
okay, dude, imagine if
it could be cool.
Think about a mechanic that would reward you for not killing a player, and it could even be karma. Like maybe if you incapacitate somebody and you don't kill them, you get like plus karma or something. So that means that you're basically saying, I'm gonna take all your shit. It's almost like you're holding them hostage, like in DayZ, where it's like, I'm gonna tie your hands behind your back, I'm gonna take your stuff, and I'm not gonna kill you. You would in Tarkov, you need an incentive.
Yeah,
there needs to be some artificial incentive because it's not role play enough like DayZ, I think. But then, I mean, think about how the only downside is what's the fucking experience like when you're the unconscious one? Because you really need like 5 minutes of unconsciousness.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna not hit escape and then leave.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I agree that there's like lots of questions, and faction karma and PMC karma definitely raise more questions than answers. But he was talking about that in the context of like the advanced animation. So like imagine being able to like heal somebody. You know what I mean? Like you can like take their stuff, but then heal them and potentially get some sort of like reward for, like you were saying, not killing them or helping them or something like that. Or VoIP even, like if you wake up and you don't have like this, what we're talking about is coming way after VoIP and inertia. And so the game could slowly evolve to be more and more role play-y, and then like these animations could be a part of that. You know what I mean? Like one of my first, I was talking to Deadly. I was playing with Deadly. We were talking about DayZ, And we were talking about how different it is. There is no incentive not to kill in DayZ. There's no karma. There's no traders. There's no nothing. The very first time I played DayZ, I was like, I found out the hard way. You don't spawn with your friends. You have to meet them up somewhere. You know what I mean? And I was on my way. I'd looted up. I had a bunch of stuff. And I got shot at. And I went unconscious. And I was like, oh, I'm going to die. Because I only played Tarkov and it's kill on sight, everything. I told Desmond, I was like, I'm going to die. And then I woke up and I was handcuffed and all my stuff was gone. And I was like, why didn't they kill me? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, this is cool.
It's actually way more evil.
Yeah.
It's way more evil, dude.
So I wiggled my way out of my handcuffs and I was like, all right, I'm basically a freshie from here. And exactly, it didn't have to be this grand, yes, they were rewarded with the finest of ammunition. It was just like, I don't know. Why not? I just want to take your stuff. They left me like a piece of meat, a raw piece of meat to eat. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh, that's evil. Because now if I want to live, I got to eat the raw meat, like stuff like that. So
you know what the worst?
I think it could be cool. I think it could potentially be cool.
How shitty does it feel when you have like 995 and it bounces off of like a face, like a shattered face mask?
Yeah.
Imagine if that knocked you out cold.
Exactly.
Like it knocked you over and you had no, like your HP was full, but you were unconscious.
Yeah. Dude, imagine using melee weapons instead of guns to like finish kills. You know what I mean? You walk up and you switch to the melee to like finish so it's silent. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude. I mean, you know what? Holy shit. Wait, this is probably beyond their pay grade. But you know how shitty it is sometimes where like if you're in a doorway and you're ready for the guy and you know he's coming and you were hiding and you were sneaky and they have no idea you're there. And usually what happens is they shift W through the door and you both just hip fire a million bullets into each other and one person lives. Imagine if there was a way that like if they got close to you, you hit a button and it was like in a lot of the games where, like Battlefield, where if you're behind somebody, it like does a cutscene almost where it would kill them. Imagine you're like standing behind the filing cabinet in Factory and a dude comes up and you could just fucking go up and break his neck or whatever. Like that would fix a lot of the annoying close quarters bullshit fights.
Dude, he as I understand it, he specifically mentioned that as part of the advanced stealth was slowly opening doors and takedowns. Obviously I don't know how that is because like it was the same thing with the original door opening animations. Getting stuck in that animation sucks. So if it's if it's a .mov file where it's like, you think and you break his neck and you pull him down, like it would just suck to get stuck in that.
And his buddy's just like,
Exactly. But he did mention that. I mean, it might just be like you could do it.
It should just be one of those like knife to the fucking windpipe.
Exactly. When you double tap V, you do a quick strike where you drop your gun and you just whap and then you pull your gun back up. It could be something like that.
That should knock you to the ground.
Exactly. It could be a proximity. If you're within a proximity and you double tap V, he drops the gun, does a you know what I mean? Like the knife, then it could pull up like a 1 second .mov slice, and then you've got your gun back up. Just a real quick takedown that would fit without being this like huge animation that you get locked into. That'd be so sick.
Dude, fucking God, now I'm thinking about how sick this would be. This almost feels like Telltale game, kind of like, it's like Mash F kind of thing. But at the same time, imagine if someone comes around the corner, they surprise you, they get the jump on you and they hit the button. Let's say it's fucking like a J on the keyboard. If you're able to respond fast enough and hit J, you'll like buffet it off, and then now you're both looking at each other like, what now? And then pull your gun out. Like you have a way to respond to it, where if you can react fast enough to the knife coming at you, you can fucking grab it.
That would be
and then,
insane.
That would be so sick, dude.
That would be insane. That would be insane.
Because what you don't want is an uncounterable. You hit one button and you kill the guy.
Yeah.
I would want it to be like you attack the guy, and what that does is the surprise knocks them on the ground and they have to like, pick up their gun or whatever. So at least like if you have a shitty gun, if you have a Taz and there's a dude with an alt in there, if you can kick him, get him on the ground, then you have enough time to go, maybe kill him. So it actually gives you like some way of
it gives you an
John
advantage,
Wicking.
but not an instant victory.
Yeah.
100%. That'd be cool.
Just another tool, another arrow for the quiver.
Yeah. So the advanced animations could be pretty sick. It was cool. They said that they have an unreleased gun that's like ready to be in the game. And by unreleased, I mean like it's not out in real life yet. That they worked with the developers of this gun, and the developers like allowed them to model it early, and the developers asked them to just wait until it's released to put it in the game. So like Nice Guy was saying he thinks it's Kalashnikov because like they're over there all the time. Like if you go to like their Instagram, like they're always hanging out with those guys. So it might be some of the new AKs.
The BK-47.
Yeah. Inertia, they talked specifically about Inertia on Clean's podcast, saying it's going to be on ETS soon. And he said it will be significant. He said weight will obviously play a factor, and it will affect all of your characters' animations, even like ADSing and stuff like that. So my prediction is that the Tarkov community will implode, similar, basically exactly like the weight system. It will come out. The game will, everybody will say that they ruined the game. The game is over. They'll tone it back a little bit. People will get used to it. Then they'll tone it back up, and we'll find something else.
Dude,
that's my prediction.
I interviewed Willers because I'm trying to interview a bunch of OG Tarkov players from way back in the day who played at the beginning of like alpha, alpha days.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was the clearest, as clear as day, that was almost unanimous from everybody that was there watching, was like the old Tarkov movement. It was ugly and jittery and whatever, but they had like, it was functionally like it had inertia.
Yeah.
You couldn't just run an ADS instantly, because you'd run and when you'd stop, you'd kind of slide and like stutter a little bit, and it was annoying, but it was functionally the same thing, which is when you stop running, you can't aim instantly.
Yeah.
And that's part of what, when you look at all the old footage, that's part of what made the gameplay so different then. If you look at it, you're like, nobody is running. Literally nobody is holding shift unless they're running from like cover to cover from an explosion.
Yeah.
Everybody is walking along pathways slowly. But the thing is that because if you see somebody off in the distance, it's whoever can get on target faster.
Yes.
And when it takes 3 seconds to stop, pull your gun up and aim it at somebody, the guy who was running is at a way disadvantage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be huge. And here's the thing.
Yep.
I really want to fucking finish. I have a lot going on, and I'm going to be gone for almost a week next week. Or the week after that. I'm going to Arizona with my wife on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
But I really want to make some more progress with episode 2 of History of Tarkov, because I think what it will do is it'll say, I mean, even the original stuff I did, a bunch of old footage where everybody was like, old Tarkov looked better. Like all the new players were like, wait, why does all these things like look, better or look different or whatever?
Yep.
It's not necessarily that I want to say like Tarkov sucks now.
No.
But it's basically like, I think I'm going to make a bunch of people who never experienced it fall in love with the game the way the game was before, and then maybe pitch it as, this is where inertia is going to go. This is so that people will see it as, it's not just there to ruin the experience for new people. It makes the game better for everybody, and here's why.
Showing is always better than telling. So if you can do that through your video in some way, then that gets a lot of people on board. The other thing is that, like, he's made it very clear on several occasions that this will be on the ETS. Now, the ETS is very clearly and very strictly on an NDA, but if you are really interested in, like, participating in the development of this game, then you can, like, request access from the launcher, hop on the ETS, provide feedback. Like, I do not believe that it is there right now because he said it was coming soon, but, like, this is what we all say we want all the time, which is like, let's test a feature and then make it better. So it's like, do the thing, you know what I mean? So I am incredibly excited for Inertia. And I'm sure that it'll need some tinkering, like many of the other features that have come to the game have needed. And last but not least, we can blitz through the community podcast with Geeks and Sneaky Russian, and I think Sigma. I'm not sure 100%. But Tarkov TV Live, the official dev podcast, coming soon. No date. He again on this talked about how all 4 patches will be coming this year. He actually specifically called out that they are aware of like the cycle of panic that happens in the community. Like when they upload changes, they just wait a few days before they like start taking super actionable feedback, unless it's from somebody who likes providing a very specific thing like a bug in the health thing. But because they're aware of how, you know, we all eventually get used to something. They talked about how the Omicron container might come in 12.12, which is I think was originally pitched as a 3x3, so a gamma, but then a space and a 1x3. So it's the same amount of slots as a kappa, but broken up, and that could sit maybe where the old kappa was as something to work towards, and then you can, you know, get to 71 and maybe get kappa.
People could stop whining.
Yeah, maybe. More events. He talked about interesting events like an open doors event where like you don't need keys for a few days or something like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. He talked more about some of the unconscious states. He said that they are considering, but not even close to implementing, but considering adding like an animation to putting stuff in and out of your secure container, which I don't really know how I feel about that. More malfunctions, inertia coming soon. They made jokes about like dino gummies and stuff like that. They're thinking about adding like really cheap stims that last maybe like 15 seconds, like, you know, like a vitamin you could take that gives you some sort of buff for like really quick, you know what I mean? Which they just kind of laughed.
Just whippets, just like,
dude, yeah. Dude, you break. Freaking geeks just like straight up asked if they can increase the GPU spawn and put them back in computers, and Nikita did it like live on the podcast. So apparently you should be able to find GPUs in computers again.
Yeah, I've heard that people have been freaking out.
They talked about adding the daily quests, making them dynamic, so they won't be the same daily quest for every person. I don't know. I don't think he talked about how he's going to do that. They just talked about it.
Ooh, that's actually a really good.
I like that.
A really interesting thing, because now you like when it's the same thing for everybody, the events, they're good, yes, because it's different day to day, but for that day, you know, everybody's doing the same thing. It goes
back to the predictability that they're trying to avoid with the dynamic loot and changing the stashes.
Now that's a really subtle thing that I hadn't thought of. Great job, Battle State.
Go BSG.
Thank you for fucking once something I haven't thought of that like
could make
the obvious person. Yeah. Fuck.
They talked a lot about Lighthouse. It will be released in segments. The first segment will have the trader, but they talked about how the trader is not going to be what we think it is. Like, it's not going to be someone we potentially like purchase things from, but it has more like quest related. It will be the first NPC. Like,
just going to be in a T-pose.
Yeah, dude, I don't know.
Fucking Gary's mod.
Basically, we don't know what he's going to be yet. He kind of made it sound like the actual lighthouse won't be in the first iteration of the map, like Shoreline. Like the first iteration of Shoreline didn't have
false fucking advertising. Well, yeah, but Shoreline is called Shoreline. It had Shoreline.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't called Resort.
I know, but I'm saying similar to that. It might not have it.
Honestly, it's like there's nothing ever in fucking those buildings anyway. For all I know, it's just a spiral thing up with like a box at the top. Like
exactly,
I wasn't even,
and a
I wasn't
sniper.
even thinking about Lighthouse being
the lighthouse,
a thing to go to.
About half the size of Shoreline is what they're thinking that Lighthouse is going to be, and there are going to be 4 scav bosses
in Lighthouse.
What the
actual fuck?
What I'm assuming is that there will be like. What I'm assuming is like, think about like Rashala and his guards, but like all the guards are Rashala. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be like a sniper. Like instead of 1 sniper boss, it's like 4 sniper bosses. So I think that like my guess is that they'll all be functionally the same. There won't be like a head guy and then cronies. It'll just be like we're the sniper squad, and we're like they might all be named like specific.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming, because we knew that the sniper, that the whole point of the lighthouse boss was a sniper, and so it might be that like. Which would be cool because it will make the map more dynamic. It's like, oh, I ran into, this guy. The other 3 dudes might be in completely different areas. It might not just be a wipe. You know what I mean? Or if a different guy fought one of them, you could still fight one. So that could make the whole boss encounter on a map like Lighthouse much more dynamic than just like, oh, I've been searching for Rashala and I found his dead bodies. Like, you know what I mean? The whole Rashala dream is over for this raid. Like, this could be a lot more
On that
spread
note,
out.
real quick, have you noticed the scav bosses have been, at least for me, and this could be in my head because I think I asked Nikita and I'm pretty sure he like denied it. Because we had talked about the whole Sturman having like superpowers, and then like literally a week later, I killed Sturman like 7 out of 8 times I saw him.
Really?
And then now I've been, and nothing's changed. It just got to the point where I look at him and he like yells something and stands up and pulls out his gun and I'm able to go pop, 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 pop and kill him. Whereas before it was, "Ah!" and I'm dead. and he's, so I don't know if like there's some global change that they made to all of the AI or whatever, but I haven't died to Sturman once since we had that conversation, and I've killed him a shit ton of times.
Maybe.
So I don't know. I've killed Sturman 9 times. So I killed Sturman 8 times since basically we talked to Nikita.
Really?
And I haven't died to him once. He hasn't even shot me. He hasn't hit me with a bullet once. He's shot multiple bullets and he didn't hit me. Before it was 100% of a bullet.
Just death. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really noticed, but that could be a thing. I know Rashala and Killa both got spawn chance buffs by a few percent today or yesterday. But yeah, I don't know. That's cool though. That's definitely exciting. He also said on Lighthouse there's going to be a rideable train with heavy weapons on it that will also be an extraction. We know, yes, he has said that there will be a train on every single map. Like every single map in the game has railroad tracks on it, obviously except for factory and labs, but every outdoor map has big train yards, train tracks. So that will be a connector of all the maps. The reserve, he said before that the reserve is the first part of it. So there's going to be a rideable train with mountable heavy weapons, and you can take it as an extraction if you want. But he said that's not going to be in the first pass of the map. And then the last thing is they talked about there's going to be a Halloween event soon. And he said we have something special planned. But nobody knows what that is.
Dude, I would love to be out in like the swamp and see like Chupacabra just once.
Bruh.
Just like, like, oh, what the fuck? There's an alien, like for a week. For a week, just troll me for like, if I ever make a game, that's something I'm going to do.
Oh my God.
I'm going to literally make it like the fucking Truman Show where one person gets an experience that nobody else would get and nobody would believe them. It'd be like, dude, I saw the fucking Mothman.
Dude,
and everybody would be like, haha, very funny. And you're like, pull up footage and it's like legit fucking Mothman. You're like, whoa, what the fuck? And then like someone else is like, I saw Slender Man, dude. And they're like 7 people get trolled.
What if they make it where if you take the Aldabdabloblablo stim in Raid, you start to see stuff like that?
Oh my God. Did you ever play Don't Starve?
No, but I know exactly what game that is. Like I've seen people play it.
Yeah, so you have like that insanity meter where like if you don't eat or whatever for a while, like you lose your sanity. So then like you there's not actual threats, but like you start hearing things and seeing things, and like the black circle moves in, and like the blackness has like things that kill you, but it's all in your head.
What if they made that a side effect, like to troll like players? They made that a side effect of Propital, Golden Star, like all the stuff we all just like pop like it's nothing, and you start hearing like whispers, like Killa whispering in your ear.
You hear footstep behind you, and you see Tagilla swinging his fucking hammer, and then he just disappears. Like, oh Jesus!
Oh my God, that would be. But they didn't list it as an event, so people that like don't run around with Propital have no idea what people are talking about. And then that would be. I would be so about that for a Halloween event. I would be about that. That would be nuts.
I don't know if they changed too. Speaking of the bosses and spawn rates, but I know they had this. I don't know if it's still going on, but the Scav event where like there was the quest for Fence to kill a 3 PMCs in a raid without killing a Scav.
Yep.
So I was just going factory to try and bust that out.
Yeah.
And I did 4 factory raids in a row, and I killed Tagilla within the first 10 seconds of all 4 raids.
Whoa.
Like I spawned in, pulled out my gun, and I saw like a streak, like a blur of him being like, I'm like, what the fuck? And I chased out, and he was just standing there. I'm like, and I killed him all 4 times.
It wouldn't surprise me if they increase his spawn so that it's harder to do that on factory.
Well, so that was the thing, is that I kept failing. The first person I'd see is Tagilla, kill him, and then fail. And it's like, well, now I'm just going to fucking get out because
I want his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually super interesting.
Although now, with all of the blacked out limb stuff, now I used to say I want armor that doesn't protect my stomach. I need to reevaluate that. Now I might want armor that protects my arms and my stomach because
somebody mentioned that in chat earlier. They were like, is Gen 4 Assault back to the meta, covering arms and stomach? But now there's like, once again, an actual trade-off. Like you could go with Slick for the movement, but that 1.5 times modifier on your stomach might be, or you could go for the Gen 4, which is heavy, but you're covering. Like, bro, it's starting to move. Dude, all the stuff we talk about, things are happening, man. Things are happening.
I feel like we're making a fucking actual difference. Like,
I hope so.
It went from just whining to like being like, no, listen. And then one day they're like, okay, we're gonna listen. And then a bunch of changes have happened, and everybody's been like, hey, these things are pretty good,
dude.
And I'm like, I know, that's what I've been saying this whole time.
Dude, dude, 100%. Like, I am excited. Like, I am getting excited. They have made, it feels like every other day has been some sort of patch, either addressing a bug and fixing it quickly, or making changes to like loot or boss spawns people are excited about. People are really excited about a lot of the features that have been talked about. Once again, we can't get ahead of ourselves, but at least they're positioning it as they're going to get 4 major patches out this year that include optimizations, bug fixes, huge new features. I mean, we're still sleeping on Unity 2019 coming out in 12.11.6, before 12.12, which could mean better dev tools we've talked about before, networking wise or otherwise. I mean, dude, it's Tarkov could be in a pretty good spot here.
Yo, so I also want to mention too that when they pushed that change and it was like bugged a few hours after the change for the health thing, when I was talking to Nikita, it didn't dawn on me until the next day that it was like 1:30 in the morning. So he must have been like pulled up the red phone and been like, stay it, like fucking come fix the shit now.
Yeah,
someone got woken up to fix that
at 1 in the morning. Yeah, to fix that.
And the fact that they got it out, he's like, it's going to be fixed within, he said 1-2 hours max, because what happens is when they push it out, it has to propagate to the servers.
Yeah.
So like there are still some servers that have games running that you can't.
Oh yeah, you can't shut it down in the middle of the game.
You can't shut it down until all of those raids are done. So that's why 1 to 2 hours at most is when you'll get you'll get assigned to a server and then have to reboot or well, actually, I don't think there was a patch. It might have been a server side change.
Where it was just like all like after this time, all new raids had the update or whatever.
Yeah. Huh. Well, but anyway.
But I mean, it's a testament to the fact that they're trying to be really committed here and push a bunch of the stuff out. So that's.
I had the best message ever. The best message ever I'd ever had from Nikita. So after this whole thing, because I proposed the fix and then I found the bug and then reported it to him and then told him all this stuff. And then I had said, where the fuck is it? I'm gonna find it. Oh yeah. So when I first pointed it out, he said, "What the hell? We checked everything before uploading." And he said, "Can you test it again after some time? Maybe not all the servers were updated." And he says, "Yeah, try blah blah blah." And then he said, "Thanks for the heads up," with an exclamation point, which is like seeing an exclamation point after a thanks is like just noteworthy. It's like Nikita has a way of talking, just like my dad has a way of talking. Like certain things mean. And he said, "Thanks for the heads up!" Exclamation point. "You're the best," with a smiley face. And I was like, Nikita. I was like, yeah, dude.
That's so great.
It just made me feel so happy. I was like, hey, yes. Like, I just feel like with team effort, fucking go team,
Yeah, seriously. And it was just like, it was quick. It wasn't opinion based. It wasn't like, and that's the thing. People are like, these streamers ruining the game. You weren't DMing him being like, yo, this change sucks. You know what I mean? You were like, yo, this is not what you said it was going to be. Are you aware of that? And he was like, no, are you sure? And you were like, yep. And we were just able to get it done. You know what I mean? Like it was.
If a bunch of people reported it, it wouldn't have gotten fixed until halfway through the next day when they all strolled in around lunchtime and saw that there was, a bunch of customer service complaints or something.
Exactly.
Or someone posted on Reddit and it got way upvoted to the point where he couldn't ignore it, right?
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I think that's cool. I think that's cool. That's exercising the best use case of your relationship with him, right? It's not emotion. It's just like, hey, I play the game all day, and I just are you aware of this? Nope. Can you make sure? Yep, I made sure. Okay, we're working on it. Boom, an hour later, the servers are being updated. Sick, dope. You know what I mean? Like that's great. So that's really cool.
that's what I call progress.
Progress.
Leather daddy. Damn it.
I hold. Oh, we gotta put it back on.
Don't spank me. I'm gonna have to get those files from you.
Yeah. Yep. All right. That was a lot. Dude, considering how little information we had gotten, like, about future patches over the summer, we got a whole bunch of information on Streets, which was confusing to everybody because they had said that Lighthouse was coming out first, not Streets. So we were like, this is cool, new trailer and stuff like that. But, and then we had the wipe, and we've had a really dry spell about like what's coming next and when is it coming. And
yep.
Dude, it was so much. It was, they tweeted out a Reddit post and a tweet with a basically roadmap update. He was on a Russian community podcast. He was on a podcast with Clean. And then the next day he was on the Emissary community podcast, confirming, giving dates, talking about that. We were just overwhelmed with information, and not just information while we're playing a stale experience in the middle of dynamic loot being worked on, in the middle of a scav event, while bugs are being fixed, all in the same week. That's a good feel. That's a really good feel. New information.
I feel like they've hit their stride.
Yeah, something, dude. Something happened over there.
I don't know if they got a new fucking project manager or if they just, I don't know.
I don't know either. It feels like
something kind of
because if you
shifted into gear.
If you had told us a year ago that they were able to multitask like this, deploying bug fixes, doing community-wide events while letting us know about all this future stuff, working on 4 different patches at once, we would have been we would have been bro, the shoreline audio still sucks. You know what I mean? But they're doing it all, so that's pretty exciting. So
I mean, it's nice to say that at least in the last few days, I've died to almost every death was audio related, which is good because now that's the lowest common denominator. I didn't think it was cheaters. It didn't feel like desync. It didn't feel like some shitty hit reg or broken arm meta, whatever. It was just, I was standing at the bottom of a staircase looting the 4 guys I killed, and someone came up, it's okay, well, at least I can control that.
Yep. I had the same thing the other day. It was like a breath of fresh air. Somebody was like, yo, how are the rates going? And I was like, I think every single death today was yo, GG's. It was either some weird audio thing that was out of his or my control, or he just played better than me. I've died a lot tonight, but I'm not mad. It's actually been a good night. It was the same thing. So yeah, it's exciting. But
now my biggest problem is just boredom.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been playing the greatest game of all time.
I know exactly. Power Wash Simulator.
Dude, it is fucking I've never done hallucinogenic, fucking smoke the ayahuasca in the mountains of Nepal or whatever the fuck. But I imagine that
it's just
sitting, listening to music and just going power washing a dirty fucking fire truck. It's the only game that unanimously everybody uses the same word to describe it. Do you know what that word is? Satisfying.
Yeah.
It's chill and satisfying. Which is the literal exact opposite of if you look up antonym of Escape from Tarkov, it's Power Wash Simulator. It's just so zen, just carving nice little rows in the dirt with the fucking soapy suds, and oh god, dude, it's just fucking great. I'm secretly hoping it turns into some weird shit where you clean off a van and then you see there's dead bodies in the back, and all of a sudden now you're fighting Satan or something. I'm hoping it takes like a weird turn.
Wow.
There's a lot of interesting shit that it could get weird, but it could also just not. So I'm sort of hoping.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I hope that's. I'm glad that you're finding your zen, even if you want it to be power washing Satan. That's awesome. I've seen you on there like 3 or 4 days in a row. I pop in and I lurk, and your camera's not even on, bro, and it's just like music is going.
Dude, you should see the camera's not on because I'm like this. I stream for 13 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours. And it's all because
you switch
I play
over
Tarkov for like 6 hours, and then I've just been throwing on podcasts and playing music while and it's just been so fucking chill. And people are like, I can't stop watching. Why?
That's so funny. Yeah.
So my new goal for the music channel is I'm going to start like a new account or something, wipe my account and start from the beginning. And I'm going to try to be like as nice and clean and satisfying as possible and record all of it. And then I'm going to use that as my 24-hour music stream where it's just my music playing and it's just.
God. Yo, it's like, you've seen those freaking videos where it's just like rain for 24 hours and has 62 million views? Dude, power washing and chill music? Whoa. That's a vibe. Dude, imagine that's like the single greatest idea you've ever had.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a really good idea.
Now I just got to play the game for like 10 hours without music playing and without my camera. Basically.
Yeah. You know what else? You know where else you should do that? I can say that to you because you have all this free time, right? But do you know what other algorithm would favor that a lot? TikTok. If you did like 20-second, dude, if the word satisfying, you use it. There's TikToks that farm hundreds of millions of views.
I'm sure it's just like crushing a fucking, like the Crushers or the
Crushers. I've seen one that
squeegees with like rugs and dirt.
Yep. I've seen one recently where they're dyeing. It's not like it's like what would eventually be molded into like plastic materials, like ice, trays and stuff like that. And they roll the plastic through these machines, and you add just a tiny bit of dye, and slowly over time it becomes the color. I've seen a bunch of music related ones. Dude, I'm telling you, there's an insane. I've seen some power washing ones in real life. I've seen a lot. So you do like 30 seconds. The thing is like you have a category, you have a library of music. Where if you took like a 20-second clip from Power Washing Simulator,
I have 130 plus songs.
Yes, and you put 20 seconds of a song, like in a world where you could just instantaneously say, Johnny, I'm just gonna hire you to do that, and Johnny puts 7 of those videos on TikTok every day. I think in a month you have 250,000 followers on TikTok. I swear, I mean it. Like. That algorithm, like, because videos autoplay, because when you scroll and they just autoplay, if in the first second you evoke this satisfying feeling, that you stop people in their tracks dead. You know what are the biggest categories on TikTok right now for satisfying? It's like the people that I don't forget what it's called. It's the people that they have a big jug and they open their orange juice and they pour their orange juice into the other jug and they put it in their fridge. And I don't know why they do that. And they take all the Coke cans out because they have a Coke rack where they put all their Coke cans and they face all the logos the right way. Those things get like 600 bajillion views. And because we all ask why, like, you had an orange juice jug. Why did you transfer the orange juice into a similarly shaped logo-less jug? I don't know. But those videos go insane. If you can capture in the first few seconds just something that feels satisfying, the algorithm annihilates that stuff. Power washing simulator with Veritas Lo-Fi is instant chill.
Any interns out there that want to fucking manage my TikTok account, send an email to info@veritas.wtf.
I would bet like 50 gifted subs that you would be blown away. I don't know if I could give you a number, but like whatever number you're thinking, it's going to be more than that. Like you would gain a lot of followers on TikTok. It would be weird, but it would
I think
work.
I have like 6,000 followers on Instagram. So
Yeah.
you think like I could beat 6,000 pretty quickly with?
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. Because the algorithm is so weird. It would just pick one and it would be like, all right, I'm going to show this to everybody to test it. And like what would happen is you'd scroll through your videos and they would all have like 1,000 views. And then one of them would have 3 million. And then it would just pick up from there because everybody would like it because it's super satisfying and the music is chill. That would be your X factor. Anybody can play Power Washing Simulator. You've got a library of 130 chill AF tracks that you could put behind it. And that's the X factor. The music and the visual, the music satisfaction and the visual satisfaction, it would just do really well. I bet.
What do you think? This is so off topic. I don't even care though, because I'm fully into this, and we were like, we're gonna finish like 20 minutes ago. But should I record the video? Like I could go on stream and play the game and like turn off alerts and stuff, and then I would just have like the VOD that I could rip whatever from. I mean, I guess I could also play music from like Spotify just from my playlist and play the game, and then people could clip things, and then it's like, then everybody's doing the work for me and there's no editing. Then it's just download the clip and upload it to.
You could. I
wonder if that would have diminishing returns, or if you'd really want to cater the exact moment.
I think you would. Like once again, it would be work, but like because you really want to hit that satisfying. So like some of your clips would be like you just starting, but like some clips would be like timing the like crescendo of a song to like the last swipe. And people would just be like, "Oh my god," you know what I mean? They're just like,
you could even like time lapse it too, like make it,
So like you could experiment with that, where you could do different vibes of music over clips, different vibes over the start of a power wash and the end. You could do a time lapse of a whole thing, and you just throw it all at the algorithm and see which one it says that's the one people are vibing with, and then you lean on that button and get 100,000 TikTok followers in like 6 days.
All right, well, I'm gonna try this experiment,
dude. I think it would just be crazy. Anyways, that was a really weird. I just love that stuff. I spent so much of my time thinking about algorithms from these social media platforms, and you said that, I was like, I actually think that's a good idea. Yep, but I do think the 24-hour on YouTube, I think is a really good idea. Yeah. Anyways, that took a real weird left turn, but thank you guys for hanging with us today. A lot of Tarkov news, a lot of insanity. Hopefully it continues, man. It's looking like the rest of this year could shape up to be pretty cool, and hopefully we start seeing some of this soon. So if you take one thing, it's go search the places you never go for loot, and then tag us when you find it on Twitter. You know what I mean? If you find a LEDX under a tree, you know what I mean, out on woods, let us know.
You have to send it to us.
Yeah. You have to list it.
RMT.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging. This was good. It was a little bit late because of me. I was out of town and I'm back. If you're going to be out of town, we can talk. I don't know if that's next week or the week after, whatever, but excited to be back. And well, it should be live around the same time like Monday. Like I should be able to get it edited tomorrow and get it up on Monday. And thank you guys for hanging. We'll definitely see you all in the next one.
Peace.